Welcome to Black Hat. Welcome to Las Vegas. I mean, this is the week to be in Las Vegas, right? I mean, if you're in the cybersecurity world. I mean, everybody from 12-year-old hitchhikers with a Chromebook that they stole from somebody to the CEO of Mom's Robots is here. I mean, everybody's here. And it's like a three-ring circus, right? I mean, we got B-Sides, which sort of ended now, I think. I mean, B-Sides over the weekend. We got Black Hat, which is going on in this hotel. And then we have DEFCON on the following weekend. So it's just one right after another. And they got parties, events, pool parties, alley vomiting, public indecency.
It's my favorite part.
Well, I mean, a lot of that's like, old Vegas anyway. I mean, that was like the first time I ever came to Vegas. That was mostly what I saw was people in alleys, and, it was pretty creepy. And I was like, this is different, But I saw people running around with kids in a casino yesterday. Mm-hmm. It was weird. I think there was a slot machine with Mickey and Donald on it or something. And they had like, Lil Junior Blackjack or whatever, like learn to play, and
Is that different than the video games like Fortnite where you get like the mystery prizes? Isn't that just grooming you for slot machines?
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, you got a point. But anyway, we're here in Las Vegas, a town where you can always get a drink or a hot dog, no matter what time it is, and there's always a bar open somewhere nearby. And we're here doing interviews this week. Jackie McGuire is my lovely co-host here today, although. I think we're all equal hosts at this point. It's like, there's not any of that. So, hi.
Howdy, Doug. How are you?
Good. I only see you at these things. So
I know.
It's like one of those weird. We had these friends that were from the U.S. and we never saw them. My daughter was like, did you realize I have never seen them in the United States? And I was like, yeah, I have several friends like that. Like I've never actually seen them in the United States. It was always like, oh yeah, we had dinner in France or whatever. But
yeah, my husband's actually coming out on Friday, which is super exciting because there are friends that I've had for half a decade that he's never met because we meet up at RSA and Black Hat and like all the different events, and that's pretty much the only time we see each other.
Well, yeah, I actually have people like that too. Not as many as all of the more personable type people, but us antisocial types just tend to like huddle in our rooms or whatever and go, "Am I on yet?" But
well, so I am a selective extrovert, so I will be extremely gregarious, but then for like 3 weeks after I get home, I won't leave my house. I'll DoorDash everything.
Okay.
I will. And a lot of times at these things, I get back to my hotel room and I'll realize that I've been sitting like this with my shoes still on in complete silence for like an hour, just kind of decompressing from the peopling. So
interesting. No, I'm not like that. I just do this for the attention.
Yeah, we were just talking about
it's
that.
It's total narcissism all day long, which is what Vegas is all about, right? Narcissism. Is Vegas? No, Vegas isn't about narcissism. It's about alley vomiting. I mean, I think that's more important theme.
I don't know if I don't think I've ever done that in Vegas, so maybe I didn't experience the full Vegas.
But I've been with people who did.
Oh, I don't drink, and I haven't.
Well,
it's been like almost a decade since I've drank, so I'm usually the person trying to corral all of the drunk outside cats into an Uber back to their hotels.
I would be more likely like I ate that pastor tortas out of that truck that looked mysterious, and that was why I was vomiting in the alley, than to be drunk.
But those are always the best ones.
No, it is the best.
I live in Tucson.
I'm not saying I'm giving that up.
If you're ever going through Tucson, in one of the worst neighborhoods in Tucson, there's this place called Aquí con el Nene, and it's just this amazing taqueria, but from the outside, it looks like a car overhang that's been like in
I love those. I know. When I was in college, there used to be one. It was in this place called the Fifth Avenue Motel, and it was literally like a flop house. Yeah. And if you went through this horrific lobby, I mean, it was a lobby like a movie set of bad.
Like Saw.
Oh, it was bad. No, yeah, it was just like, is that guy dead? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, no, maybe he's dead. But if you went around the back, there was like a plywood wall, and if you knocked on it, the guy would open the window, and you could order it. You had to order in Chinese though; they didn't speak English, and you had to order something in Chinese, and it was the best.
Yeah.
And you almost never got sick.
Yeah.
But even then, I went back. It was that good.
It could have been a fluke.
Yeah. So, I guess we should talk about Black Hat. I mean, Jackie and I can talk about all kinds of weird stuff for a long period of time, and, we kind of get off subjct.
It was a risk having us host together, I think, but I think hopefully it ends up being more entertaining than it is terrifying. No, but I think this is a really cool year to be at Black Hat because we're in the middle of this hype cycle, right? And I think the overlap between that hype cycle and what security people have to do is pretty tight. Identity is becoming kind of one of the big flash button issues right now with trying to figure out how to provide, access and control for all of these different agents and robots that we're trying to use. And yeah, I think it's an interesting time to be around people and kind of hear the full spectrum of this is just hype and like we tried it and imploded and now we're never doing it again to, oh, we're just going to fully automate everything and lay off everybody who makes under six figures. So I think there's definitely it's always interesting to be amongst people living and working in technology when these things are going on, because there's such a wide range of opinions and how people are using. And of course we're talking, I was trying to go as long as I could without saying AI, but
we had a bet.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
she lost.
I think unfortunately this problem has fallen in security's laps in a lot of organizations, and so I think it's cool, it's interesting. It's always nice to see our friends at Hacker Summer Camp. And
well, yeah, I mean, I like to come to these things because I get to see a little more about, I mean, I don't work in the real world except as a consultant, so, which is then also not the real world. But yeah. I mean, I don't have like, a 9 to 5 in the industry. So I get to meet a lot of people that do, and that helps you sort of, I think, stay at least in the ball game in terms of what's going on. Because, yeah, the hype cycle kind of confuses me because I do the news. I see the headlines. And you do see it change, but it's good to see what other people are talking about, and they have free drinks. But I mean, you do get that kind of stuff, and food and all those good things. Yeah. But it's always fun, and I got invited to so many parties that it's like, well, this is like the opposite of my life. I'm like, why am I? But then my wife's like, oh, you're on a list,
Yeah,
and I was like,
oh,
that's
lists.
why I got invited. Yeah, it's like not, but maybe I'll show up.
Well, then we.
Did you foolishly invite me?
And instead of at a party last night, like a dozen of us ended up at my hotel room because we just want to hang out with our friends. Because again, I don't see people in person. But yeah, the parties are always fun. I think one of the things that I'm really interested in is kind of seeing how big people's booths are. Not that I'm a booth size queen, but I think that, coming out of RSA, a lot of vendors are kind of starting to have some budget concerns. And I think more from things are very unstable in the economy right now. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of like the money people are spending, how many staff they sent here, things like that. Because there was definitely at RSA like some sentiment of, is this worth it? Like we spend so much money, the booth, like it costs so much to be here. And for me, it is, because I get to be in a super concentrated pool of highly intelligent experts in what I do. Because like you, I'm not a practitioner anymore. I don't write Python anymore. And so I do rely on being in groups of people to kind of understand what's going on. So getting the temperature on the floor and seeing kind of if people have scaled up or down, because there are a couple companies who are known for these just massive, massive booths. And I want to see if that's still the case right now.
You know how much less surreal this got when I realized you were saying booth size instead of boot size? When you first started that, I thought you said based on people's boot sizes, and I was like, am I missing something here?
I mean, I do wear a men's size 10, so I am a rather big-footed individual.
Like, oh my God! But then I was like, oh, booth size.
Yeah,
okay, so yeah, but that's the advantage of having bad hearing. You get a lot of surreal moments. Where you're extremely confused by everything that's going on around you.
I love that for you, though. I love that as I was over here droning on about like boring black hat stuff, you were having this whole existential.
No, I for a moment I was like, how does this, what in the hell does this even mean? I was so confused because I was like, I've never noticed that. Should we be studying this? Yeah. Boot size through the ages. The impact on AI?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some correlation between
you can find a correlation with anything if you try hard enough.
But correlation
as a statistician, I can say this. But it's true, yeah. We could probably make a correlation between boot size and the amount of AI being used to terminate other people's jobs. I don't know. It's probably some kind of thing like that.
So you teach.
I do.
So what do you think I know what I've heard because I talk at a lot of high schools and colleges. What are your students' biggest concerns right now?
That they don't have the skills that they need that are practical enough to get them the job they want. I mean, I think, and I mean, I'm not going to say that's a change from 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's always been, I've always been I've always tried to focus on developing curriculum that focused on practical, which makes me exceedingly unpopular sometimes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of academics want, it's like educated versus trained, and you'll hear these arguments. And I respect all the sides of that. I mean, being educated is not a bad thing. No. If somebody makes a joke about Bartleby the Scrivener, you ought to get it. But, because it's one of our family inside jokes. Like, and we all get it, but nobody else does. It's like my daughter will say, I prefer not to, and it's like, that's the extent of the joke. And like, how many people actually get that? But I saw it in a TV show where somebody was talking about it. So, but the students get really worried that they're being trained in theoretical concepts. And sometimes it's the parents that are really worried because they're like, I want to be, that's a question we get asked a lot. Like, how are you going to ensure that they have the skills they need to walk in the door? And it is a trick, because
every employer out there wants an entry-level security person with 10 years of experience.
Yeah, and that knows 15 different programming languages, and and on and on. But we try to talk when I was running the program. We tried to talk to the employers. So we went to I had a board that was made up of people that were sorry. This is a little quick ad for. But we had a board that was, I'm not that anymore. We had a board made up of people that hired our students. And I know we went and talked to them and said, what do you want? Because that was when we switched from C to Python.
Yeah.
Because I was a huge C++ person, as all of you know. And, when people started saying, maybe we should learn Python, I was like, oh,
but then
what the hell?
You use it and you're like, this is a really adaptable, flexible. I personally love Python. It's my preferred programming language.
I was a C++ C person, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this Python stuff's a bunch of crap. It's not. I take it back, but I didn't know it. And when people come to me with that and C is there, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. You're going to tell me an interpreted language is better than C? No, you're wrong. But I mean, they were right.
But speaking the same language as your data scientists, I would say learning Python is far preferable to learning R. So.
Absolutely. And we came around to that. And same thing went with calculus. This is very controversial because, when people ask me, they're like I have students go, what class should I take? I'm like, I don't know, Calc 1, sounds fun. And they're like, no, but I was originally advocating we have 4 years of engineering calculus required for everyone. Because I was like, I think English majors.
Applied calculus, though, because what I will say is when I was in college, I got like a C in calculus because it wasn't applied to anything.
Yeah, I know.
But then Andrew Ng has this phenomenal applied calculus for data science course. And when you actually understand like the nearest neighbors and the regressions, I think when you have something to apply calculus to, it makes so much more sense because I was always terrible with theoretical math. I have to have like applied math for it to make sense in my head.
When I taught it, I was using the Google interview questions. I was like, don't tell me this doesn't matter. I was like, here's a Google interview question about ping pong balls and swimming pools, and I'm like, you might want to brush up on this. But what happened with our employers was they came back to me and they said, why? Like, why do they need all this calculus? Wouldn't it be better, to take programming? And I was like, well, I like programming too. And they were like, well, like, can't you learn logic and reasoning from programming just as easily as, and then you could learn a second programming language. So we switch, we try to make this change. But I think that's the students' big fear is that they're investing money in something that's going to turn out to be a bust and outdated and a waste of time.
Or replaced by AI.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Anyway, we got tons of content for you here this week. We got all kinds of interviews with all kinds of very important people who are far smarter than me. But we'll have fun anyway. And I hope if you're here, I hope you're having fun and we may see you around. If you're not here, well, you can stay tuned in to CyberRisk TV and see what we're talking about for the whole week. Jackie McGuire is going to be here doing interviews. I'm here doing interviews. Matt Alderman's here doing interviews. And we have our wonderful crew behind the scenes, not being seen, that are actually making us all look super, super cool. Yeah. So stick around and we'll see you a lot.